good evening and welcome to Volpower Digital Exhibition Lounge. And welcome to our home city of Glasgow, even if this is a virtual visit. My name is Umut Korkut. I'm a professor of international politics at Glasgow School for Business and Society at Glasgow Caledonian University. So this exhibition was planned to take place in Rotterdam originally, but we're hosting you at your homes instead. I'd like to at least hope that this is more comfortable for you. And this way we can also host an international audience and crowd as our VIP guests this evening. Some more welcomes and thanks are due. First, I'd like to welcome obviously our Volpower volunteers to whom we owe so much for their engagement with us over the past 2 years, as well as our partner associations who hosted them during their volunteering activities. We'd like to thank them for their engagement with us. I'm also very honored to welcome the Volpower principal investigators from Austria, Dr. Ursula Reger, from South Tyrol, Italy, Dr. Andrea Carla, from Malta, Alex Hilly, from Slovenia, Romana Zajec, Croatia, Professor Senada Šedošević, and the Netherlands, Professor Peter Scholten, as well as their teams. So in total, we're a family of around 20 researchers in Volpower. We joined them as the Glasgow Caledonian University team, including myself, our two Glasgow and Edinburgh-based principal investigators, Doctors Fiona Skillen and Fiona Reid, as well as Marcus Nicholson as our project manager, and Doa Atala as our researcher and my assistant during the course of writing this project 3 years ago. I also would like to welcome our advisory board members tonight: George Thompson of Volunteer Scotland, Dr. Utur Erhard of Bilgi University Istanbul, Dr. Ada McGarry of Loughborough University, Professor Anne Harris of RMIT University Melbourne, as well as our colleagues from the WISE Institute for Social Research, which hosts this project, Professor Sarah Cantillon and Professor Una Walsh. But above everyone else, I would like to welcome my colleague Maggie Laidlaw, to whom we owe so much for this evening. She's the creator of this exhibition and the energy and the spirit we needed to deliver the Volpower project. Thank you very much, Maggie. So in brief, Volpower studies social inclusion in 7 different European sites, looking into volunteering experiences of young Europeans and migrants. For the past 2 years, around 35 young people took part in the Volpower project, organized and informed sports and arts related volunteering. It's a bit of a tongue twister, but the full name of Volpower is Enhancing Community Building and Social Integration through Dialogue and Collaboration amongst Young Europeans and Third Country Nationals. It is coordinated by a team based at Glasgow Caledonian University, led by myself. Our project explores the contribution of volunteering in sports and creative arts and culture associations among EU and third country national youths. So the age group that we selected was from 18 to 27, to interaction and processes of integration and empowerment. So the project is funded by the European Union AMIF Fund, Asylum Migration Integration Fund. For 2 years, the project was conducted over more than 2 years in 7 EU geographical contexts. We have representatives from the European Commission among us this evening, and we hope to live up to their expectations as well. For this exhibition, we worked with artists based in Iran, Turkey, and Scotland, so the Volpower story actually went beyond the 7 countries that we selected, who will introduce themselves shortly along with their works tonight. Our artists were guided by Dr. Maggie Laidlaw, who is the curator of this exhibition, obviously, and were instructed to provide digital platforms from which the Volpower volunteers' own visual and textual poetry material provided through their volunteering journeys could be showcased. The artist's role here was to add richness to the ideas already woven through their volunteering works and to interpret and communicate them to a broad international public without overwhelming it with their own materials. As said originally, this exhibition was to take place in Rotterdam. However, we believe that having a virtual exhibition in the end served for us to generate an even more interesting and innovative exhibition. Our curator, Dr. Maggie Laidlaw, carried out a groundbreaking and pioneering role for creating this online exhibition. She worked with artists using online channels, digitized the material that young volunteers prepared in 7 different sites across Europe, and served as an in-betweener despite restraints amidst the pandemic. She has pushed the borders of curation and storytelling while keeping many across Europe engaged. We will be ever thankful to our dear Maggie. This is a truly pandemic-inflected but pandemic-capacitated exhibition and a show of how dire circumstances can trigger creativity. Before we start visiting this virtual exhibition, I would like to mention some of the findings from our project briefly in the fields of first, social inclusion, and second, volunteering. Integration of migrants has been a much contested concept that has received vigorous political and academic interest in my research and others. All throughout the Volpower project, we advocate the importance of compassion for and intimacy with the newcomer and the other in our societies to maintain social inclusion, particularly amidst crises. We reconceptualize the term integration in order to mitigate the challenges that the newcomers in our societies face and propose it as a mechanism of establishing solidarity with the other in our societies. As the artworks and poetry tonight will testify, young people look for intimacy with the wider society. We need to have societies that provide an intimacy between migrants as newcomers and their hosts in order to generate more inclusive societies. These intimacies are crucial so that newcomers and their hosts can develop common narratives that would define the future of their respective communities in our future societies. As the Volpower Consortium, we propose the following. Newly developed policies should avoid assumptions in the field of social integration. Policies should not be written according to an idealized image of society in policymakers' minds, but should be deliberately developed at the local level and address the whole of society. This would give the policymaker a more realistic and comprehensive picture of the newcomers and the wider society. For more sustainable solutions, both at the local and national level, integration strategies should be mainstreamed in the public policy making. Social integration, as a result, is a matter of experience. If people can create good experiences at local level and everyday life, we can expect more positive outcomes from such policies. The first welcome, interactions and experiences with society play a central role in the future integration of newcomers in their new host societies. We also have some findings from our project in terms of volunteering. I'm quoting the Volpower Youth Volunteering Policy Paper that my colleagues, Drs. Ursula Reger, Andre Karle, Heidi Flarer, Marie Lehner, and Astrid Mattes prepared last week. It will be made public shortly on our website. So in terms of volunteering, Volpower team suggests the following. The creditability of volunteering experience is important. Volunteering provides training for higher education and or professional purposes. It provides incentives to the volunteers. Policymakers should create favorable conditions for people to volunteer, such as government programs allowing people to take small amounts of time off from paid work for volunteering activities. In increasing the diversified societies, volunteering also intersects with migration issues in several ways. Hence, volunteering associations address diverse aspects of the phenomenon of migration, from support during the first reception of newcomers to assistance in processes of integration. Persons with a migrant background represent an important segment of the population, as well as a relevant part of the pool of potential youth volunteers. Volunteering experiences thus become a tool that sustains processes of integration and community building. We suggest that policymakers should support volunteering associations in their efforts to include newcomers by providing support for these organizations that are challenged by dealing with language problems, clarifying legal frameworks surrounding the involvement of migrants in volunteering, and providing financial aids for specific support. So without adding anything further, I would now like to welcome you to this great exhibition. I hope you will enjoy your time with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Umut, and thank you for that introduction, and thank you for describing me as the energy and spirit. I don't think I've ever been described in that way before.
And our dear Maggie, on top of everything.
And my dear Maggie, yes. You always brought me to tears, so I'll try and compose myself. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. It's such an exciting time, and I'm so happy to see you all. This exhibition and all that it entails has been the most rewarding experience for me, and I don't want to cry, there we are. But before I just go into the exhibition and tell you a bit about it and how important it is, I would just like to thank a few people here. Firstly, to Umut and Marcus, who allowed me a free rein in designing this exhibition and its content. To Marcus for keeping me organised. I do not know what we would do without Marcus. And to Umut, who's such a supporter of the arts. It's like a dream job for me here. Thank you. I also want to quickly thank our web designer, Fulia, who's worked so hard over the last few weeks to make sure that everything's up and running for tonight's events. And also to the artists who came on board with us in late July last year. But my thanks go mostly to our volunteers, because without them, this exhibition would not be happening. And this is a celebration of them, and I'm so grateful for all their hard work and creative endeavours. They have engaged with my ideas actively and enthusiastically, even when at times they maybe did not understand what I was trying to achieve. So you may be asking what this exhibition is about. And first and foremost, it's a documentation of our volunteer stories expressed in a variety of creative forms. The young people in our project participated in a variety of activities that I had designed, but that built upon their skills training during this project and in relation to their volunteering. They created poetry, videos, collage and photography, and we'll get a chance to look at some of their direct contributions later on tonight. And why is this exhibition important? Well, I did have a big speech written, and then I sat and watched the presidential inauguration the other night and later rejoiced in the reactions in social media. It was heartwarming and enlightening to notice that despite the current celebrity status culture that we live in, social media went mad for a young woman's poetry. It wasn't Lady Gaga or J-Lo or Garth Brooks or even the boss Bruce Springsteen himself that most folks were touched or excited by. It was the poetic words of a young woman. And I thought, isn't this just wonderful and so pertinent to our exhibition here? And that's because art acts as a vehicle for allowing us to connect with one another, to find the similarities and shared experiences between us all, where we can empathise with one another, listening to a poem or a song and you recognise the words of the storyline and you feel moved emotionally by what you're experiencing. And creating art helps people produce the reality that they understand in their own words, in their own way, and helps others see something in that they can relate to in their own lives, making those connections with one another. The creative reflective process of making also prompts something in the brain to work in a different way that can unlock new perspectives and forcing us to think differently, to imagine. And if we are keen to make better futures, which I think we all are, we need the ability and the confidence to imagine, to think differently. But this is a research project, and as a research method, art also has the ability to touch upon the difficult to get at aspects of research, those internal struggles that are also part and parcel of everyday life that almost go unnoticed. The hidden and sometimes overlooked thoughts that we have as we negotiate our way each day. And I have found that the creative methods such as those used in Volpower produce a different kind of data, that there are stories that emerge through creative engagement that may not emerge through more traditional forms of research methods. Within these creative methods, the data is generated through collaboration. It is often collectively produced by an exchange of ideas and experiences. And so it's important for us, and I don't just mean us here, but all of us everywhere, to hear each other's stories, to learn about one another, to connect and get to know each other. Because when we get to know each other better, we tend to treat each other better. So this collection of works is a collaboration of artists, academics, and the young people in our project, whose voices and experiences are narrated and shared in various creative forms that complement each other in a way that harness the spheres of community where dialogue takes place and where multiplicities of identity are experienced. I hope you will agree that it captures the role of art in breaking down language barriers and enabling people to truly connect with one another.